What's up, everybody? So I'm going to show you what we've got going on for our pros who are getting ready to head back for spring training. This is just an everyday infield session. So we always start with kneeling short fungo. This is something that they brought to me, and I'm really happy with this. Essentially, my job is to get them 2 hops here. And the things that I like to watch when they're doing this is watch their eyes. Like, they're super focused. Watch the pocket presentation. Not even that, just like the timing when they present, how they're making their moves. They're getting to an exchange point. They're fighting the ball in their throwing hand. It's really good. And you'll notice Riley will lean forward every now and then. That's something that we got from Evan White, just to cut down a hop so you don't get jammed, get comfortable getting jammed with your hands. They'll take that to a standing position. Now, they'll integrate this with some pattern work too, which is really cool. But what they focus on here is, like, it seems like hip mobility, loosening up your hips, and they just kind of glide. And then they'll start working into patterns and just kind of showing the glove in different ways, finding different hops. And so I try to be as repeatable as I can with this. Now they'll give me different setups too. You notice Colt here, he's working the gas pedal, waiting to see what hop he needs to attack or if he's going to flow through laterally. There's Riley with a backhand setup. So we get deep into that as well. We'll play with that a little bit. We transition from there to an infield in, essentially no throw. We're working pattern work. And so both these guys have experience playing third. They have opportunities to play third. So this is a spot that we kind of mix in together as we go. And notice how when Colt gets his work in, he's working more towards first. That's because he'll be getting more reps at shortstop today. He's trying to work on that pattern, whereas Riley, as a natural third baseman, first baseman, he also works on that play coming forward. Not that Colt never works on that, but for today's purposes, especially, he's working on trying to get that movement towards first base. And you'll notice Riley's hips. He's trying to line them up directionally towards me in anticipation of, preparation for that kind of play. Now here we got a deeper setup. Now we're throwing. And so for the younger players that I show this video to, one of the things that I really like to point out is the finish on these throws, right? And so they're throwing and they're following the throw. They're getting over their front side. It's not just planting and stopping and ricocheting them back. And Colt's another one whose arm kind of works a little bit from a lower slot than Riley's. And so that'll kind of drive him more linearly through the ball. We got a more aerial mover here in Riley, so he's going to be a little bit more bouncy, which actually is really cool contrast to watch, because those are kind of the bucketed movers that we get at the Dome anyway. So when I'm watching videos like this, and again, these are guys who are just working on ball security. I mean, this is not them pushing the envelope at all. They're finding their pocket, looking for secure post-reception patterns, stuff like that, making sure their throws have carry. But when we're watching this is super cool. And you'll notice the prep step techniques are different here. You've got Colt, who's a grounded mover. He kind of gets into his right leg as he lands, and he's going to land at contact or slightly before. Riley, on the other hand, he's working post-contact, very similar to what we've seen from Volpe, Lindor, guys like that. So as we get into stuff like this, it's super fun to watch them just kind of work through their routes and find their pocket, and then slowly start to ramp up. Now from there, we go into double play feeds. We don't do this all the time. Just today we were working on this, and so one guy would be taking their reps, the other guy would be at second base. And I think a good important note here is watching their direction. So understanding that Colt normally would be working towards first, the flow of his energy is directly towards second here. And he's super efficient and concise with his moves. The ball doesn't stop moving. So there's a continuous flow here. And I think Colt does a really good job of this, potentially better than anyone I've seen, of throwing the ball where he's catching the ball and still being accurate with that. And again, Riley working post-contact here. And again, he does a really good job getting the ball out quickly and cleanly. He's got a lot of reps at third base, so he feels this motion a lot. But you'll notice there's a flow to both of these guys. The ball doesn't stop. And Riley's mechanics especially, there's a lot of flowiness to it, which is really good and adjustable, and it allows him to kind of expand range and not get stuck. That ball looked like it kind of tried to get deep. He's able to correct that and still get a good throw off in a timely manner too. So these are some guys who, it's not just fun to hit the balls and watch them, but when you get their thoughts on it, like, it is very in-depth. And so now Colt's working double machine backhands. We'll use this setup for range expansion, which we'll show you at the end here, but we also want to do this for like varied hop patterns and maybe velocities. So Colt's working 2 different velocities here. One's going to stretch him out a little bit more. One's going to be a little bit more secure of a play, and his job is to focus on receiving the ball correctly in the right spot. And so his big focus is getting it off his right foot. If he gets that too deep into his body behind his right foot as he goes to make that plant move and go, it's much more difficult to receive. Riley here, he's just working on range expansion. How far can we go? How big of a first step can we get? And that's a lot of that has to do with your positioning and stakes, which that was a little bit arbitrary in this space, but it got him expanded pretty well. And here we're just ramping up the time. So Colt's putting a little bit more intensity into these ones. And I've amped the velocity ups on both. So you'll notice he's having to stretch out more range a little bit more. Kind of forces him to use his athleticism a little bit different. But it is really, really fun to watch these guys adjust to the different speeds of the game that our training environments can set up. You'll notice that one compared to the first ball where he's fielding it on the run, he got that out a lot quicker. So they're learning from these reps. Now they're going to be both at third base here. So this is double machine, same kind of setup, but now we're working to their extremities. This ball's going to a pretty hard backhand. They're going to have to really work to get to that spot. Sooner you get there, more forgivable pattern you should have. And then we got a ball to their left, which again should expand their extremities range, especially with a guy like Riley who's working post-contact. He's trying to find a certain timing. So this is a great place to workshop this. If there are technique notes that need to be adjusted with Riley, there aren't any that we know of right now. But it's just more of like, how can we hit this window? How can we move more efficiently? Stuff like that. And for Colt, it's more about reading flight. How can I read the right launch angle to where I can move and adjust and still put myself in a really good pattern to make a reception? So you can work with a lot of different techniques and movers with this. And I think from a player standpoint, having done this is really fun. And I think the only note I would have to coaches who are wanting to implement this, make sure our ball flight is accurate. And that, like, with that in mind, both of these balls are going to have some kind of curl. The ball to their left, obviously less so, maybe even a little bit more chop. And we can do both, right? So I would encourage you guys to go on to Baseball Savant, look at average exit velocities at certain directions on the field, look at different ball flights that are more expected at different directions, and the exit velocities that match up with those launch angles. So that's what we try to emulate here. But again, as we're playing the extremities range, we also keep in mind this doesn't happen a ton. In fact, a large percentage of balls that are hit at us are going to be within our field of vision. That's essentially it's a 5-degree visual. So we're not ranging for a large majority of the balls that we get. Now we do need to make these plays because this separates us from the pack. Because as we level up, that was a sweet play by Riley. As we level up, that's the separator, is getting to more balls. So if you're interested in subscribing to the channel, make sure you do so. Turn on the bell. Don't forget to join our base stealing and infield communities on X. Thanks.